Our goal is to light a fire under the music industry in England, and this will be the first time since Burns in the 1960s when a retailer or distributor could buy product from a manufacturer capable of producing in quantity, but high quality. A luthier is a strange term. It only showed up in the English dictionary a few years back, but it's an old term going back several hundred years, defining somebody as one who made musical instruments. My name is Mark LAMAQ, and I am one of the directors and owners of LAMAQ Guitars Limited, a manufacturing company in the northeast of England, specialising in making electric and acoustic guitars. Musician, yeah, I could describe myself as a musician. I started playing when I was 4. My parents bought me a ukulele. And then I learned to play the trumpet and then the piano, and then they got pushed to the side for guitars. I started playing quite a lot, and when I was in my early 20s I had quite a guitar collection, and then one day somebody just suggested, why don't I have one made? And I'd never thought of it before, and so I did, and it was better than anything else I had, and I had a good collection of guitars. The real start for me was when I was quite young. I bought an acoustic guitar, thinking I could cut a hole in it to put an electric guitar pickup in. Straight away we know where that one went. So that was the beginning, that was the true beginning, and then I took another guitar to pieces and then had one built. That became the trigger because it was so exquisite and so perfect in every way. I kept visiting the particular guitar maker every weekend, and it was a 100-mile round trip every weekend for 6 months. Got to know the guy, and eventually bought the company. So that was the start, that was the very beginning. And from there, obviously, I started applying my skills from the aerospace background into the woodworking industry. I started, basically that was the seeds of all of this. What we do on a day-to-day basis is build musical instruments. And this has come up, it's part of my life's journey in a way. There are other companies that make guitars, and there are plenty of individual luthiers. The difference between themselves and myself is that I had an avenue open to me in the Far East that allowed me to work on tens of thousands of guitars every month. Married with my background and technical ability, as well as the craft ability, plus 8 years of quite high production, I came back to the UK thinking, this is a chance, we can do it here, it's possible. And even though we're only small, we've got a lot of ambition, debt-free, well-funded, and we've got a great team of people. What else do we need, really?
When good collaborative minds come together, like our ethos has been, you know, from very similar thing from the start. There's all kinds of projects we can be working on in the future.
What is particularly happening here is the people that surround us. So it's not just about making the guitars. We have a recording studio with Paul Jackson, we have Keith Robson of ROBSON Tuners, I have my business partner Peter Class, and in terms of our purpose and where we are, we see ourselves bridging the gap between tradition and technology, which is taking the very best of the hand skills and all those hard-earned skills that take time, and also the production skills that take a lot of time in a different arena. The difference before with a lot of manufacturing that has disappeared from the UK is that those skills kind of went with them. And production skills in certain industries like musical instrument manufacturing, yes, you can become a guitar maker. Building 5,000 guitars a month is a whole different set of skills from building 1 or 2. And I've had the experience of both. And so What we're doing is harnessing the skills of the craftsman and bringing to bear all of the technology used to bring out the best in terms of manufacturing. So that doesn't mean completely automating. It means bridging both. So using CNCs for high precision inlays, but handwork for finishing and carving. Anything that relies on touch or sound goes straight to handwork. It all starts in here. The art is really from the hands. So whether I use a CNC or a particular set of skills that way, or whether I take a chisel and use that way, it is relevant on some product, but by and large is irrelevant. The result is what counts, so I use whatever is the best tool. And that's why I said before, it's a marriage of both tradition and technology. I take the best of both. Hand on heart, you can't do it without being in love with the art. So I love the tradition and the technology, so I'm a paradox of the two. But our leaning as a business is artistic. That's where the flair is. The dynamism for business is very straightforward. That, unfortunately, is the nuts and bolts and the engineering side that comes through. But they both support each other. It's part of dark side of the moon, light side of the moon. Also, part of this community involves another business, which is ROBSON Tuners, who have become very good friends of ours. They have their workshops and facility locally, and we work together on numerous projects, including developing their own guitars now.
My name's Keith Robson, and I make guitar hardware, and I've got a business that produces guitar hardware. I've been doing it for around about 10 years now, and the business has gone from making machine heads primarily to now full-on guitar production. The business is ROBSON Tuner Machines, and it started off with, from an embryonic idea with my dad, was making like amateur guitars. I got made redundant, and we both realised there was a bit of a dearth in the market for high-end tuner machines and high-end hardware for guitars. There's a lot of beautiful guitars out there, but they were still having average factory-produced hardware on there, so we set about redressing the balance. I've always been a massive music fan, obviously, and it runs right through the family. My parents, my grandparents are all mad keen musicians. I'm a bass player. I used to play in bands originally when I was a kid. There was always guitars, and I always kind of attempted to play them unsuccessfully, unfortunately. But my grandmother used to play guitars, and her parents used to play guitars and banjos, so I've always been around the family, so it just really feels like a natural thing to have done, to have gone into guitar production. My grandmother was in a band with her brother and sister called the Gibson Trio, and they used to do a lot of wartime music and entertain us really, and they toured all over the country, so you know, hopefully we've done them proud. I got into a little bit of trouble in school, and I didn't do very well. I didn't used to like to go to school. I didn't do very well there at all. I mean, secondary school in the 1980s wasn't particularly good in the northeast of England, so I left school with very few qualifications. Did a few crap jobs after that, so actually getting into this gave us an opportunity to, you know, exceed in something and be brilliant. My family's got a rich heritage of innovation and craftsmanship. My great-grandfather was one of the finest turners down the Sunderland shipyards. He used to fit out the captain's cabin. He was known as one of the best in the industry. And my grandfather was an artist, and he was also a brilliant gilder, and he actually went down to Buckingham Palace to do gilding work down there. My father's an engineer and an innovator, so it's nice to be able to carry on the family line and the creative legacy, and you know, very much into putting something back into Sunderland as well. Initially we were just doing classical tuners because that's basically where we saw the market originally, but then we realised that like right across the board we kind of set about producing high-end versions of the original vintage stuff that was out there. The range of things that we produce now go from classical tuners to steel string acoustics, electric guitars, ukuleles, mandolins, all of which did not have a high-end option before. We do high-end upgrades of original vintage stuff that was out there, but the original vintage stuff, a lot of the metal was cast and plated and pretty tinny, whereas we concentrate on really high-end, fine tooling and turning, and everything we produce, there's no plating. Everything we do is produced from solid metal and wood. It's all about kind of matching the high-end hardware with a beautiful high-end guitar, because you don't want a beautiful instrument that's spent hours and hours handcrafted with something that's just off-the-shelf factory produced. So we set about creating a fresh option. Mass-produced hardware you know, gets spat out in factories in their thousands, whereas everything we do is milled and turned from solid. Every component part is put together by hand, hand polished, and also hand engraved. We've got a machine shop down in Weymouth, which is in Sunderland, and we machine the parts there, and we put everything together by hand here. Well, it's a funny thing, because we've got into guitar production because we spent the last sort of 10 years dealing with high-end guitars, so that's been like a perfect market research for us, really, to see, you know, what we think is good, what we think is marketable. So it just seemed like the next obvious process for us to go into guitar production, because we know a lot about it now. I've worked with many fantastic luthiers over the years, and Mark, his knowledge and his ability, you know, is second to none. Now, I hope it's the case that when you have a beautiful high-end acoustic, or any instrument for that matter, being made, then, you know, it should be not accepted to have, you know, an average factory-produced set of hardware on there. Everything should, like, the quality should be matched with the quality, and like, as time's gone on, you know, we've kind of got that message across.
Through Keith Robson at Robson Tuners, we met Greg, who is the chief engraver at Purdy's. And so this has opened up another avenue of not just art or artistic value we can add, but excellence of the finest degree, because, you know, Purdy's in the gun world is equivalent to Rolls-Royce in the vehicle world. And so it's really good for us to have connections at this level with such skilled artisans, that we can apply all these mixed skills to a common purpose and come up with something quite exquisite.
Hi there, my name's Greg Goodwillie, and I'm a gun engraver by trade and now a guitar engraver. I was fortunate enough to learn my trade at James Purdy & Sons in London. I spent 5 years as an apprentice and then 3 years as a journeyman, and then I became a fully qualified engraver. I basically applied for a job at James Purdy & Sons due to a good friend of my dad's said that it was a job going, and I went along and they gave me the job there and then. In school it was quite a different type of school. There wasn't many opportunities, but I always used to draw. I was always drawing little silly cartoons, nothing really too serious, and it was just something to do to pass the time. And after that, little by little, it turned into bigger things and bigger projects. I always knew I was quite creative though, so that was quite nice. And we went on from there. Like I say, I went and had the interview. The guy really liked me, Brian, and he said, you start on Monday. And I've never done anything else but engraving now. My dad's an amazing guitar player, and that's what originally got me interested in guitar, because there was always a guitar lying around the house. Unfortunately, I was always left-handed, and I'm right-handed, and my dad's left, so that was a bit annoying. So I learnt upside down for quite a while, and then he bought me a real one. Basically, my dad played a lot of like campfire songs, you know, and which was really cool. He bought us a guitar. I've got 2 other brothers, and he bought us a guitar, but we didn't really pick it up first of all. And then he showed me how to play Wild Thing, and he bought us a little amp, and that was a different world then. It wasn't acoustic, so it kind of felt like it was a bit more mine. From that, when I was at school, it wasn't very musical. We had like a band, and I used to knock around with them a little bit, but they weren't the cool kids, so I sort of kept me distant because I was in with the cool kids, and fortunately. And after that, I didn't really have much to do when I got home, so I just used to start whittling about. And then it was about 1994, 95, Oasis came out, and then I had my sound. It was like away from my dad's, 19 guitars later, and still collecting. Oh, I've got 3 Les Pauls, all custom ones, and about 4 Telecasters, various strange and wonderful guitars, but yeah, it's quite a very good collection. Play a lot of national slide as well, so I've got a national, and I just had one made actually, a mule resonator, which is from America. It's bloody stunning. So. When I was around 30, a friend of mine passed away who I worked with, and it kind of put things in perspective of what I was doing. So we was apprenticed together. So it was quite a big knock. So I went away to Thailand for a little while, and on my return, or while I was out there, I decided I wanted to do something more. So I looked into what I loved, which was guitars. I had a massive passion for it, and I decided I'd love to do something with that. And while I was at Purdy's, Danny O'Brien used to work there, who was the engraver for Zamatis guitars. So he was quite a legend in our workshop. You know, he went on to do something, and a guy, Phil, who was kind of like my dad at work, he built me a guitar, and he put a metal top on it and said, "Why don't you engrave it?" I engraved it over probably about 6 months during lunch times and everything else, and it came out, well, I like to think pretty well. So we then went up to Denmark Street in London, and we walked along. I was on my own, and I took it along and I started showing people. A few people just weren't interested, and then I went to Vintage and Rare. It blew them away, and that's where it all started. We've only produced 3 at the minute, so they take between 200 and 400 hours to engrave. So they're not something you can just quickly do, and you know, a lot of thought goes into it. You've got to take the shape of the guitar into context. You know, you have to. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just a quick doodle and cut it. It's got to flow properly. So that's the art of it. You know, you can stamp something on something, but it's got to work and flow. That's how we were taught. So yeah, we just carried on the tradition from the guns to the guitars.
You actually draw it out onto the metal?
Yeah, we draw it all out. Yeah, it's all hand drawn. There's no machining, no nothing. It's literally drawing with quite a sharp pencil. We use a graver, which is a high-speed steel. We sharpen it to a point, 90-degree angle, sometimes 120, depending on how thick we want the line. You know, different cuts. So we use that as our benchmark. I kind of said it to everyone that I was going to start a guitar company, and everyone kind of laughed. And I don't know, just by saying it, it come true. I don't know if there's anything in that, but yeah, the more and more you say it, the more and more you believe, and little by little it ends up becoming true. I don't know how it does.
With the ROBSON products, we've decided that the best approach for their needs was a very classic and traditional approach. So we developed some fairly traditional guitars, such as as you can see here, some classic styled instruments. And this is a model based on a 59 Les Paul with, you can't tell on here, but it's a very low neck angle, very traditional. We used another material for a mahogany version, really high quality one-piece bodies with tapered routing in the back, so everything is precision made. I mean, this is off of the machine and it's very, very smooth. We've also developed a double cut guitar. They're similar woods, flame maple on the top, a one-piece mahogany body, perfectly sawn. You know, quarter cut, it's perfect. And these are all chambered. And we also have a range of arch tops, which are considered to be the most prized and highly regarded type of instruments. There's a lot of work in them. They're half electric, half acoustic. As an example of our craftsmanship and dedication to the tradition of what we do, we still apply technology, even to these acoustic instruments. This rosette was made piece by piece on the CNC and took 3 days to assemble. But the guitar itself is a traditional classical made from Brazilian rosewood, which is one of the most highly prized woods for classical guitars. But as you can see, all the small details that we look out for, everything's inlaid and really carefully done. And this is the same approach that we take with everything. It's just holding fast to the tradition, but using technology to give us a leading edge. And again, we have acoustic tops, which everything's handmade on there, but we use the CAD system to design the positions for everything. This is for a multi-scale, so it's all twisted a little bit. So it's always technology applied to the most basic jobs where it's hands-on. So that's one of our design ethos, is that same with the ROBSONs. There's a hands-on approach we want with everything we do, but not at the expense of technology. We want the precision of technology with the skills of a craftsman married together.
I want us to be at the very, very top, not mediocre, like, you know, I want us to be at the very, very top. So, yeah, that's where I see us. Don't see us anywhere else.
Well, when we first started talking about this with Mark, like last year, the evolution that's happened since then is quite incredible, really. That goes from the ideas that the sort of nucleus of the idea of that he would make some guitars for us and we would do some certain, like, put our kind of work into it. And the speed that it's all changed is phenomenal, really. And that's testament to Mark as much as anybody else. And now the ability that we've got to be able to produce in numbers and all work together is quite remarkable, really. Well, I think having all the combined expertise of ourselves, Mark, Greg, and just a coming together of people with really high ability is a brilliant thing. And the fact that we're all in such close proximity, apart from Greg obviously down in London, but he's only a train journey away, is a marvellous thing. And to be able to work together and put our heads together, all with the same ethos, and the products that we're going to be producing is going to be second to none, which is a great thing, because I'm not sure that it's been done since, well, probably the 1960s, where you've got like a one-stop shop to be able to produce wonderful, wonderful instruments.
And everything you've seen is just the beginning of what we want to achieve. It's just the first step. We're going to push this from a small business, which it is, and you've seen the workshop, you've seen the setup. There's quite a lot of technology there, but it's small. But to us, that's the first step. We're harnessing the skill sets, and then we're going to broaden the capacity in terms of production capability. So our goal is to light a fire under the music industry in England. And this will be the first time since Burns in the 1960s when a retailer or distributor could buy product from a manufacturer capable of producing in quantity, but high quality.